I call the meeting at 10 or 7:06. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mike, your name tag.
You're Michelle tonight.
Oh. I just want to remind everybody, this is an agenda meeting. Even though it's open to the public comments are not open. The privileges of the floor are not available tonight. We will have some interviews and some discussions, so we will be soliciting some feedback from some people, but otherwise there'll be no privileges of the floor. It's open for town board comments only. Back? All right, thanks. So the first thing I'd like to introduce for tonight's actually, I'm all right. Sure? Yeah. I'll just go with Joe. Do we have enough? Bob and Joe? Yeah. So again, sorry for the delay here. We're doing some interviews. Again, the agenda policy or agenda meeting, what we're going to try to do is talk about some things here we want to put on the formal town board meeting in 2 weeks. What I'm hoping to do is after tonight, after we've got the board and talk about some things, is to be able to publish to Carol and put it on the website will be an agenda hopefully by tomorrow, the latest Thursday morning, so we can put it up on the website, a draft agenda for the May meeting. A couple items that I want to go through here. We'd like to introduce a procurement policy for the town of Princetown. It's an updated policy. I sent it to Peter, our attorney, for review. He actually had a good suggestion, so what I want to do, and first I want to review it with the board and make sure, understand what we're trying to do here. And second, I would like to take it to the town staff, particularly department heads, or anybody who's actually in charge of purchasing, get their feedback on it, see if there's anything they wanted to add, delete, or question, or have questions about. And once we have some feedback from not only from the board, but also from the staff, I'd like to introduce it for resolution, hopefully at the May meeting. Again, we talked about this probably back in February, so I know it's taken a little while to get here. So that'll be my responsibility. But overall, what it is we're enhancing the existing policy, trying to put some tighter controls on some of the purchasing in town. Again, it's all a matter of, from my perspective, of trying to, again, control our spending as much as possible, getting everybody to, to look at it, to agree to it, to understand why we're doing it, and also, as we go through the year, to use this policy as part of our planning policy that, I've asked for a wish list from every department saying, what is it you guys need, short term for the first 6 months or long term, 18 months. What are you looking to, what does your department need, whether it's a new computer, a new printer, maybe George needs a new set of tools out at his, at the pump house. So I've gotten feedback from just about everybody. So that, along with this procurement policy, is my the logic behind this. Again, to control a little bit of our spending, get a little more oversight into it, and try to align it with future planning as we go forward. So I don't think everybody's had a chance to read it. And I apologize, I wanted to get this out to everybody a little sooner, but it's 7 o'clock here, so bear with me. When we do make it a resolution, obviously in May, if I can get it on the agenda for May, right, yeah, May, obviously we'll have copies out here for the town to see and, and look at. Peter indicated to me that it can be passed as a resolution, but again, I'd like to use the next 2 weeks to circulate this amongst not only the town board, but the town staff and in particular the department heads to gain their input and their approval, hopefully. Just going down through it, again, it aligns with a lot of general municipal laws already. Any purchases, like in guideline 2, any purchases or supplies or equipment over $10,000 in the fiscal year, or public work contracts over $20,000 shall be formally bid. The method of procedure for purchasing will be used, required by the procurement policy. Anything from $0 to $50, just a receipt will be required. 50 to 100, a department head written approval. 100 to 300, supervisor written approval. 300 to 500, 2 members of the board written approval. 500 to 3,000, 2 verbal quotes. And then 3,000 and above, 3 written quotations or a formal RFP response. Estimated amount for public works contracts, 500 to 3,000, 2 verbal quotes. 3,000 to 5,000, 2 written quotations, and again, anything above 5,000 require 3 written and an RFP. Any written RFP shall describe the desired goods, quantity, and particulars of delivery. The purchaser shall compile a list of vendors from whom written, fax, or email or oral quotes have been requested, and written, fax, email, oral quotes offered. All information gathered and compiling with these procedures of this guideline shall be preserved and filed with the documentation supporting the subsequent purchase of the public works contract. Guideline 4 again talks about the lowest responsible proposal or quote shall be awarded the purchase unless the purchaser prepares a written justification providing reasons why it is the best interest in the town and its taxpayers to make an award to another than the lower bidder. The bidder is not deemed responsible. Facts supporting that judgment should be documented and filed with the record supporting the procurement. Guideline 5, a good faith effort shall be made to obtain the required number of proposals and quotations. The purchaser is unable to obtain the required number of proposals and quotations. The purchaser shall document the attempt made at obtaining the proposal. In no event shall the inability to obtain proposals or quotes be a bar to procurement. Guideline 6, exceptions. Except when directed by the town board, no solicitation of written proposals or quotations shall be required under the following circumstances. A, acquisition of professional services. B, emergencies with approval by the town board. C, sole source situations. D, goods purchased from agencies for the blind or severely handicapped. E, goods purchased from correctional facilities. F, goods purchased from another governmental agency. G, goods purchased at auction. H, goods purchased for less than $50 with a receipt required. I, public works contract for less than $50, again, the receipt required. And J, purchases under state or county contracts. Bids for lower prices may be made. Guideline 7, this policy shall be reviewed annually by the town board at its organizational meeting or as soon after as is reasonably practical. Guideline 8, the person in charge of buildings and grounds shall maintain a list of preferred contractors to be maintained in the town clerk's office. This list should be reviewed by the person in charge of buildings and grounds, and each contractor then has to requalify yearly. Guidelines 9, If at any time the person in charge of buildings and grounds should be dissatisfied with the quality of work or find that the contractor is not responsible or otherwise not performing in a quality, workmanlike manner, the person in charge of buildings and grounds can qualify under another contractor and or remove or replace said contractor from the preferred contractor list. Guideline 10, all preferred contractors must maintain and provide proof of adequate insurance coverage, naming the town of Princetown as an additional insured. Guideline 11, all highway and maintenance repairs must be presented to the town board. Prior to any expenditure, the highway superintendent must present a 284 agreement as required by highway law, section 284. To be approved by the town board, it is the responsibility of the contractor to pay for and submit proof that all work performed meets town highway codes. And finally, guideline 12, just policy review. This policy is reviewed annually. Again, I just think it's pretty, I say logical, but again, just put a little tighter control on and checks and balances on our purchasing for the township. So, Todd, any thoughts on?
Yeah, I just listened to you read it. I'm not sure it's necessary, but I will read it, digest it further. I'm sure there are certain areas that don't and will not fall under this just by pure law, whether it's the court, clerk, assessment, or areas outside of this town board's jurisdiction for purchasing. Some buildings and grounds and stuff that we buy for the town board here, or town hall here and stuff like that, I guess, would fall under this. But your wish list that you mentioned, I think that largely comes and has been presented during budget time, and that's what's part of the budget process, as our department heads are doing what was asked of them by the supervisor during budget time frame when those line items are all set in our budget. I'm assuming we're going to be doing that again every year for budget time. So, other than that, no comments.
All right. Well, thank you. So I'd like to get this. I'm going to circulate it to the staff tomorrow. Do you think you could provide some feedback, if you're going to provide any feedback, close of business Thursday?
Close of business Thursday. Why do I need to provide feedback by Thursday?
Just to keep the process moving.
I think my feedback is holding up your process.
Okay.
I'd be more than happy to provide you some feedback. I don't know. I will not do my best to get it to you by Thursday if that's when you like it.
That would be spectacular. All right.
How does this compare to our existing, do we have anything existing?
To a one-pager? Just a one-pager? I don't have it in front of me. Okay. It doesn't go into the detail. I think the minimum is 500 before you need approval. I think that's a little bit high up. Again, if it's a legitimate purchase, then getting legitimate approval, only takes 2 minutes, 5 minutes.
No, I don't have a problem with this. I think it's good to have checks and balances. I just was curious as to, how much more involved it was compared to what we have existing. So, but I think it's all well and good for checks and balances.
Any other thoughts, or? That's what Bob's thinking. Joe, any thoughts, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's two things. Every place I've worked my whole life has had office procedure manuals. And this is such a document that belongs in an office procedure manual. It affects purchasing. And the fact that we have a requirement to review it annually says that, okay, the numbers we pick here right now, as we move forward, we may want to make some tweaks next time we review it. But I think overall, it gives everybody clean, clear guidelines on how to proceed with something. And, you know, to use the term checks and balances, that's kind of an aggressive term, when in fact, it's really just guidelines for folks to follow.
Right.
And so in that sense, it's just inherently good, a good idea. And that's my 2 cents.
Luke?
I think it's a good thing to review it every year and and I can't see anything wrong with it the way it is right now. And our blessing, and we'll place it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Bob? Any final thoughts, or?
No, I just, thinking of the situation we had a few weeks ago, or that if this was in place, that probably would not have happened. With the purchase that we had question on last meeting.
What situation was that?
The one where the garbage pail was purchased for $130 some, a plastic one. 140, which was discounted.
And what was the issue?
Well, we didn't want to approve it, but if this would have been in place, that wouldn't have happened.
Yes, so what was it? I don't understand what the issue was.
It was a $200 garbage pail that we got on sale, 30% off, but it still was a $140 garbage pail.
What was there, I'm assuming there was some thought process behind that specific type of, and where it was being placed and what it was being used for.
Well, it wasn't worth $140, Todd, that's the whole.
I guess, what judgment are you using to, I understand that if you're just at your house and you're using it underneath your kitchen sink, you probably wouldn't spend $130. But if it was being used at a public venue where events were held, and it might need to have to have been a certain type of garbage can to meet certain criteria for certain events that are held in a certain location that generate revenue for the town, it might be having had some criteria that might have categorized it in a sense that that's the appropriate price point for that type of item based upon the needs assessment.
And that is exactly the feedback we would have gotten if we had this policy. Exactly. But there was none. So.
And there would have been department head written approval required. So,
Do we know that there wasn't?
Well, I don't know the answer to that.
So you guys made a judgment that something was not appropriate with no information,
Well, we're
and
talking
made
about,
an assessment that there was something that wasn't approved by department head.
we're talking about procurement policy.
Well, Bob just made a point that without this new procurement policy, we wouldn't have had this issue. I'm just trying to
Well, we
understand.
wouldn't have, because
I wasn't here.
the issue that we had, Todd, is when we had to approve the spending last month. Okay, we saw this $140 for a plastic garbage can.
And made a judgment on it based upon just that alone without.
It was not worth it. It was a waste of taxpayers' dollars.
So I think we're off subject here a little bit.
I'm just saying that if this was in place, that would not have happened.
I agree. I'm in agreement with you.
I guess that's, I don't know how that could be an accurate statement. If you still today don't know any more about that particular purchase other than the dollar amount.
So again, we're off subject. The subject here is procurement policy.
I guess in my only comment is that I would like to make sure that the procurement policy empowers our department heads, not the politicians in this town. They're the people that are here, that we hire, that we entrust to do the job, that are here day in and day out, that understand the duties, responsibilities, and legalities of the position that they hold. Most of us are part-time council people that pop in and out of here, that truly, at the end of the day, don't understand the jobs that the people that we employ here do to the extent that they do it. I like to support the people that we work with, okay? I don't want to have, you know, me approving, yeah, in the past, in my experience, there's usually been a collaborative, you know, people work together in this building to make very good decisions that are very economical, that make sense for the town residents and the dollars. They all live here in this town too. Nobody's here wasting dollars.
All right, thank you.
So I would like to make sure that this procurement policy empowers our people and doesn't put controls in the wrong place. That's all.
Yeah, I think number 2 says department head approval, but we can move on. You said you provided feedback in writing by, hopefully by Thursday the 26th.
I did.
I'd appreciate that, and if, like, same with the board, or the rest of the board, again, I'll be circulating this to the staff for their review and comments. Okay. The next item up, I wanted to have with the ethics policy. I sent it to our attorney for review. He had made some changes or suggestions. Unfortunately, I was unable at the time to print it in time to get it out. So I will have